ready for another lesson?
What is up, everybody?
How's it going?
Welcome to the first episode of Back Row Banter, your new favorite movie podcast. You scratch that, your new favorite podcast in general.
Probably movies too.
Probably movies too, but I'm going to say it in general, just your favorite podcast ever. My name is Adam Schwartz. I'm going to be your host. Joining me today and for the foreseeable future on the couch here, I got my buddy BlakeHolder. Blake, how you doing?
Doing well, man. How you doing?
Not too bad. It's a little warm.
Good.
Been here for a bit, but...
How was your holiday?
Yeah, we are recording this on July 5th. Right? Oh, shit.
Yeah, today's Sunday.
Forgot. Yeah. It's been a weekend, but it was good. How about you, man?
Good, man. Can't complain.
Yeah, got
nice weather, so eat some food.
Also joined here by other buddy Nathaniel Gingrich.
How's it going, gang?
Gang.
What have you been up to lately? Besides what we just talked about, taking all the small talk.
Dude, I spent about 3 hours today playing Valorant, and I am just not good at that game, but I love it.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, mouse and keyboard, we're adjusting.
I don't know what that game is.
It's like CS:GO meets Overwatch.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it specifically from Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah.
Got it. All right.
Yeah.
Super similar playstyle.
Yeah, and that sultry voice over there is my buddy Tyler Vidalis. My boss, Tyler Vidalis. Must clarify that.
I don't like that word.
You don't like the boss? What, manager? Is that what you want?
No, I don't know. I don't like... I'm not that guy.
My friend.
Yeah, I'm just hanging
You're
out.
also pretty much my best friend. So we'll call it at that. Today, for our episode, we'll give you a little teaser here. We got in the news. We got a new Fallout series coming from the creators of Westworld, and then we'll give you what's new to streaming services, and then our main review for the day or for the episode is going to be the King of Staten Island, a movie that came out a few weeks ago, but just getting around to reviewing that since it's our first episode. But before we do any of that,
it was supposed to come to theaters.
It was supposed to come to theaters. Yes. Before we get into any of that, though, we did kind of just want to introduce the podcast to everybody. Kind of explain what the inspiration was, where it came from, and who we are, really. I reached out to Blake and Nathaniel a few weeks ago asking if they wanted to start a podcast because we all worked together, technically still do, but at Best Buy, and we always had some good movie conversations when things are slow
and when they were fast.
Yeah, we made time for it.
Yeah. Excuse me. I need help. Nah, bro. We're talking about John Wick.
You seen it, man?
Yeah. Yeah, and I just kind of missed the movie conversation. I would hit him up when I went away for school and hit him up, talk every once in a while, and figured we should do this more often. So Tyler decided he wanted in on it too and invited himself, and then here we are.
I did indeed invite myself.
It was gonna be hard anyways.
Yeah, we were gonna record here and
Yeah, a little peek behind the curtain. Tyler and I are also roommates, so it would be difficult.
Yeah,
to
kind of
keep
around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we are. Do you guys have anything you would like to add to the little story, or anything you guys are hoping for the podcast, or any other tidbits?
No, man. I say let's jump into it.
Yeah, you got. Well, you could talk a little bit more about like what you like and
Okay.
Or
Sure,
what you kind of your takes are. What you know.
In terms of the movie, or
Just movies.
Just you as a person.
Okay. Just you.
Yeah. I say we'll kind of go around then. I would probably say I'm probably a big horror guy. So I'm sure most of the films I'm going to be most knowledgeable of will be thrillers, going back to maybe some 90s horror, then obviously anything 2000s above.
Yeah, because you've liked this since you were like a little kid.
Yeah, and actually that's how like me and my dad got into
I'm the complete opposite. I was scared shitless of horror until about 3 years ago. I could not watch that shit. So.
I feel like that's kind of common though. I feel like most
Well,
people
I got somewhat traumatized in like the second grade and was just not able to overcome that until a few years ago. So, yeah. All right, Nathaniel, where would you come at? Where would you say your movie knowledge is at? Your taste.
My movie knowledge will be pretty extensive, I guess.
Vastly larger than the rest of us.
Yeah, so I have a master's degree in film and literature.
All right, go off.
So yeah, so I'll have a little bit higher academic and maybe critical familiarity with some of the movies and some deeper cuts overall. But yeah, I love movies. I've loved movies since I was a kid. I can walk the entire spectrum of movies and stuff like that. So much I wanted to go to school about it. So, in case that wasn't obvious, there you go.
All right, Tyler, what would you say your movie? What is the word I'm looking for?
Experience?
Not experience. Your movie / entertainment niche is. There you go, niche.
I'm just kind of like, everywhere. I'll never say no to nothing.
You watch more fantasy than anyone, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so like
and
big
more
Lord of the
nerdy stuff. And comics and
comic books. Yeah, I'm a big superhero guy, and like I think that's just an age thing.
Yeah.
I'm the oldest one here, so I grew up reading comic books. But yeah, so it's cool to see all that grow and everything like that. And then anime is a really big thing for me too. I've probably watched more anime than the three of you combined.
That's probably true.
So yeah, and like I think that's kind of like another age thing, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
I mean, when you talk about age, that's kind of where I come in. I think the perspective I give here is I'm 19, soon to be 20, so you'll hear it throughout every episode, I'm sure, to the end of the time about how I've never seen a movie that apparently all three of them have seen, and
You were born in the year 2000.
I was born in the year 2000.
I can remember where I was the moment the year you were born in started. That's like me coming online.
You're booting up at the year.
Yeah, in year 2000. Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So for context then, so outside of Adam, everyone else is 25 and above.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
so I'm coming in a younger age, but personally for movies, I'm like Nathaniel. I've loved them since I was a kid. My older brother and his best friend were always in the movies, so I was always watching with them. So I feel like I have pretty good knowledge for someone my age.
Right.
Because most people my age, they watch The Office on loop and don't do nothing else and think Transformers is a good movie. So it's just like...
Yeah, no, that's we were kind of talking about this earlier. It's one of the reasons I'm excited that you pulled this together is I feel like most movie podcasts or a lot of movie podcasts are guys like our age or the more established critics. And
another thing for me is like, you guys say how I haven't seen a lot of these movies, but hopefully we'll get a chance and you guys can educate me a little bit, or we can watch the movies and stuff like that. So that'll be something fun for me.
Which is like a little bit more exciting for me. I love nothing more than watching a new movie or show with somebody that hasn't seen it yet.
Oh yeah,
because it's like I get to watch it for the first time.
True. Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully we'll get there. So eventually, because not a lot of new movies coming out, so we are gonna have to start off by backlogging a little bit, and going back and watching some classics or movies that we want to talk about. So that's going to be the podcast, episode 1, and episode 2 should be live at the same time you're hearing this. We're going to be doing our top 10 movies, going around and kind of giving everybody a taste of what kind of movies we are into specifically, and what so everybody can get like a taste of what we kind of like. Yeah. So without further ado, let's get right into the news. Our first story is a Fallout TV series coming from the Westworld creators to be coming to Amazon Prime.
That is interesting.
Yeah, I saw that, and any guys, we're all kind of big gamers. Any guys play Fallout? Because I have not played any of them.
I have not.
I've played like the first one, and then once they got to like 76 or whatever the last one was, and it was just like a dud. I was just like, I don't really care anymore.
Yeah, I've never played them, mainly because of the gameplay, but I do love the world and everything that concept.
That vibe.
Yeah, I love that 50s like
post-apocalyptic,
that 50s aesthetic. Like I played Fallout Shelter, and I mean that's like basically my own experience of Fallout.
Yeah.
And I love the vibe of that game and the look of that.
I'll tell you what interests me on this. Ooh, what up,
Siri? Hello.
Yeah.
She wants to join in on the podcast.
Yeah.
All right.
This is,
If you're doing the drinking game, go ahead and drink whenever Siri makes an appearance on pod.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be the first one. I'll tell you what interests me about this actually is that it's the fact that it's the creators of Westworld, which means that it is Jonah Nolan, who is the brother of Christopher Nolan, and oftentimes writes with him as well.
And it's his wife with him, right? They're a pair.
I did not know that, but
that's what I was reading in the article from Hollywood Reporter.
That's so that'll be fun. I think that's a good mesh if he's kind of got the same kind of style or a similar style.
Well, where do you guys fall on Westworld? Because I absolutely loved the first season, and the second season really fell off for me, and I haven't even watched the third.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I want to go back and watch them.
Yeah, I was gonna wait till season 3 ended, but I didn't really hear anything about it, to be honest. People weren't really talking about it.
Well, there's a lot of other stuff going on.
Yeah,
I
that
think.
is fair.
And for me, I mean,
fair.
I never really got into it that much. I mean, I know kind of when it first popped up and got some buzz, I got to a few episodes, but it just couldn't hook me.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
the
probably
first
something
season, I
should
binged
definitely
through
go back.
that. It was really, really good.
Have you seen it at all?
I went through the first season. I haven't watched second or third. But yeah, I like that whole aesthetic, and it's cool because like if he's doing another crossover, like where you get to take like a technology world and a Western world and mix it up, I think he's perfect for that, to be able to take that aesthetic and put it into the Fallout 50s with the post-apocalyptic.
Is there any danger of kind of plot crossover? The Fallout doesn't really have any sort of.
They're all individual. Every Fallout game has its own story.
Oh,
basically.
really?
They all follow basically different vaults. You come out of different vaults.
Fun.
Vaults were like bunkers that everybody went into
Yep.
after the Cold War, basically, or during the Cold War.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, it's probably going to be its own story. I don't think it would ever follow any of the games, but you never know. All right, next story. This one's for you, Tyler. Animated Ninja Turtles movie in the works with from Seth Rogen.
I'm totally down with that. Like, I love Seth Rogen. I think he does a lot of cool stuff. Particularly, we'll come into in a little bit here for news.
Yeah.
And then Ninja Turtles. I thought the last two Ninja Turtles were awesome.
The live action ones.
Yep.
Yeah.
I thought they were
so.
cool.
I don't think I saw the second one. The first one
there's
were
two
okay. Yeah. There's a second one. Yeah.
I was never a
seen
Ninja
the
Turtles
first
guy.
I loved
for sure.
Ninja Turtles as a kid.
Well, and see, like again, I'm pushing 30, so like I grew up watching Ninja Turtles on like Saturday morning with like my bowl of cereal.
Have you ever like gone into like the history of the guys that made them or anything like that?
No.
Okay, well, shout out to another podcast, Do Go On, where they did a report on that, and this is a great story. Those two guys that kind of created and how they kind of got started and everything. But
I'd be interested because that's like my childhood.
Yeah.
So, but that's awesome.
I'm definitely
always down.
And it's
for
Seth Rogen, who
TMNT.
I trust, and hopefully he brings some.
Yeah,
humor.
because he came from that era,
Mhm.
so he knows all about that stuff. I think he's somebody that would do that.
And I think
fantastically.
Seth Rogen's the kind of person that needs to bring a little humor to Ninja Turtles, whereas I feel with those newer movies they were more kiddish but also somewhat serious. Whereas I feel like with the humor, that's kind of the vibe that Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I think it's cool because like Raphael has some really dark stuff, and like
for
nobody
sure.
touches on
the
that.
first
and
movie's
I think,
dark.
Yeah.
In
They're
like
using like real weapons.
I think that
live action.
The very
Yeah,
the 80s
okay.
one.
Yeah.
Those ones are fun.
and I think Seth Rogen will be able to play that dark side and the humor side very
Let's
well
hope
with
so.
each
I
other.
think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has not gotten the treatment it could have. Like you said, those two movies that came out somewhat recently are okay.
Yeah.
But I feel like they could make a really, really good.
Well,
Ninja
it
Turtles
started out as this kind of parody to Daredevil.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was
remember
like
hearing
pretty
this story.
dark and kind of violent, and it wasn't even colored. It was black and white and stuff like that. And that's kind of where it came from. And then it kind of evolved into this kind of thing once they started making the toys and the cartoon shows and that kind of stuff. So it'd be interesting because Seth Rogen has done darker stuff like Preacher and that kind of stuff. So it'd be interesting to see kind of where he kind of strikes that tone, like you were kind of talking about earlier.
Have you guys seen the 2007 one, the one that's animated one?
I have not.
No, I never saw that.
Yeah. Have you seen that one, Tyler? It's not the one with cause the first.
It's like TMNT though.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Haven't seen.
I don't
it in a
think
while.
so.
Just threw it out there.
Well, we'll keep an eye on that. I'm definitely probably gonna check it out. I mean, if it's coming to theaters, I'd go and see that.
Oh, easily.
Yeah, I would think so.
All right. Next news story. Obviously, we're talking mainly about movies, but we will have some TV news in here. Obviously, Ozark to end with expanded season 4 on Netflix. So instead of the traditional 10 episodes that they did for seasons 1 through 3, it will be a 14 episode season, but it will be the final season. Any of you guys watch Ozark?
Love it.
Absolutely.
I have
Ozark.
not seen it.
It is
I'm
fantastic.
kind
I think it. I think it. After watching season 3, it's a must-watch show at this point. Like,
I've heard
I'm-
nothing but good things.
It's
I'm obsessed.
fantastic, and it's one of those shows that it's gotten better each season, which is not always. I mean, most TV shows
That's a
don't do
feat in
that.
itself.
Yeah,
But like Jason Bateman.
Jason Bateman.
Right.
Oh
Like-
my god. Yeah.
I love when he plays not a funny character.
Without
Like,
a
he's
doubt.
such a good
because he's
actor.
so
Yeah.
good.
And I love when he
He's
plays an
so
asshole,
serious.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
He's great. He's great. And I think season 4 I think this is a perfect treatment for this, is having a longer season 4, because they set up a lot for season 4 at the end of season 3.
With
and
just mind-boggling stuff.
Yes. And I think if they continued past season 4, it might get into territory where they can't keep up the quality.
Okay.
So I think this is a perfect place to end, and I think giving it 14 episodes which is perfect.
Okay.
So I'm very excited for this. Season 3 just came out at the beginning of quarantine, basically like in March.
Yeah.
So I don't think production will be starting anytime soon as of now. But
hard.
yeah. So excited for that. We'll see when it actually comes to fruition, though. It might be a little bit, maybe sometime next year. And then our last news story is going to be rest in peace to Carl Rayner.
Yeah, a little sad news at the end here. Just for one thing I do want to say, too, that all 3 of those stories were courtesy of The Hollywood Reporter.
Yes.
And I just want to make sure they got credited on that. But, Carl Reiner died, who I think most people kind of in our age bracket would know best as Saul Bloom from the Ocean's 11 series, the rebooted series. But obviously, he'd had a pretty long career in Hollywood. He was Mel Brooks's best friend, since the 50s. Was a director as well as a writer and an actor. Had done, I believe he directed The Jerk with Steve Martin, which was one of his kind of big breaks, and was a writer on the Dick Van Dyke Show as well. Obviously, he's also the father of director Rob Reiner, who did Misery and some When Harry Met Sally and that kind of thing. But just had lived a long life and was really great and really well loved from everything we've kind of seen so far. He died in '98, so he had a good run in him overall. But just sad to see he's gone.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Rest in peace.
All right, well, moving on. Next in news, we're going to do your new to streaming services for the first week of July. So from Netflix, we have Patriots Day, Paranormal Activity, Schindler's List, Spaceballs, The Karate Kid 1 through 3. Amazon Prime, you're going to get Pineapple Express. That was really the only one mentioning from Amazon Prime. Hulu, you got Footloose. Again, only one worth mentioning there.
Great movie.
Yeah, HBO Max coming in with The Conjuring, The Departed, Dirty Harry, Kill Bill, Volumes 1 and 2, Saving Private Ryan, 2009 Star Trek, and then the Watchmen movie from 2009. And then Disney Plus, we got Hamilton, of course. So out of those that I just listed, why don't we go around and pick out 1 or 2 that we are excited to watch or you think are worth watching?
I mean, HBO's always killing it now at this point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just for you to list those 6
I was
movies
going to say
in
that.
there.
Yeah, that was a
HBO,
huge hitting list.
HBO now. I mean, they launched with an incredible lineup, and they're just adding more and more. And sorry, I said HBO now. HBO Max. HBO Max is probably my favorite streaming service.
Yeah, The Conjuring, definitely one that you think you're probably going for.
I haven't watched that probably in the past 2 years or so, but I'll certainly sit down and watch it again.
Probably one of the best movies I've seen in theaters.
Oh, like just the experience?
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Again, that came out when I was in my...
You were 12 or something.
I was like 13.
You could drive a car.
Yeah.
For a while.
And how about you? Any movies out of there?
Schindler's List I've actually been thinking about a lot recently. I think just because a couple other people I've been talking to had recently given it a rewatch just during quarantine because you've got 3 hours to kill at any point now.
Yeah.
I kind of also want to go back and give The Departed a watch.
I haven't seen that in about a year or two.
Yeah, it's been a while for me on that one as well.
I mean, that's a classic. That's
it's great.
That movie has probably one of the best casts of any movie.
It does, yeah, and then I think that would be kind of an interesting one for us to come up with recently, or kind of in the future, for like you kind of seeing it in those really formative years of when you see it, and us kind of after we'd seen some Scorsese before and kind of stuff like that as well. Because Departed's up there, but it's not my top Scorsese guys.
Yeah, that's a hard list.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ty, how about you? What you looking to watch out of those? Any in particular? Or at least ones you recommend? Footloose?
Yeah, I mean Footloose. If you're my age, you've obviously seen it and you've probably fallen in love with it.
Not your age and have not seen it. So.
Do you know, is it the 80s one or is it
It's the 80s one.
It's the 80s one, yeah, because I believe the newer one was already on.
Oh, so now they're both on there.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's like way too much stuff on there, and really touched on a lot of different stuff. Like HBO Max is just killing it.
Yeah, the HBO Max stuff. I mean, Star Trek. I'll watch that again.
Yeah, those are like
I love
great. Yeah, those are
movies.
great movies.
And Watchmen, I haven't seen that one yet. So
Watchmen's definitely like one of those ones that I've seen so many times I could put it on to fall asleep to.
Oh yeah, Watchmen's a good one. Are you because you haven't seen?
I haven't seen the Watchmen,
and you haven't read it either.
I haven't read it either,
and you want to watch the series.
I want to watch the series, yeah.
Which, if you're listening, listeners, you need to read the series and then watch the series.
Noted.
For those to make sense.
Noted.
Watchmen, the movie, is an adaptation of the graphic novel.
Correct.
And is a good adaptation, but not the same level that the series.
The graphic novel pushes.
Well, the graphic novel is
and actually ends differently.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I definitely need to check out the graphic novel. I'd say my pick out of that list, easily Hamilton, which I've already seen.
Oh yeah.
I woke up Friday morning. I forgot for a second that it was Friday, July 3rd, and then I was on Twitter, and then I saw the Hamilton Twitter account tweet, how many viewings are you guys at? And it was like 12 o'clock, and I was like, well, I'm at 0. So I put that on and just watched that for about a good 3 hours. I absolutely love Hamilton. Where are you guys coming down on Hamilton?
I've seen the play in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I like musicals. Musicals are cool.
Yeah, musicals.
I saw the play in Chicago. I'll watch this specifically because it's the original cast.
Yes.
I don't know.
You said you haven't seen it yet. You haven't watched it.
No, I haven't watched it yet.
Well, one thing I will say about it, regardless of Hamilton itself, is can we just talk about Disney Plus's quality of streaming? Like everything on Disney Plus looks fantastic.
Oh yeah, you're talking about
the bit rate, the actual quality of
the actual quality.
I mean, I'm watching Hamilton on my OLED, and it's just like holy shit.
Yeah.
Like it is so clear, and it looks. I mean, 4K is nice, but like when Netflix 4K looks trash compared to
Netflix
Disney
has
Plus.
a really high compression rate.
Yeah.
HBO for all of their great content has a really bad compression rate as well.
Yeah. Exactly.
If this is too techie talk for you guys, the bit rate and the compression rate is how much they have to shrink down the film so that it can be passed into your device of choice. Mm-hmm. So because film takes up quite a bit of information, you have to actually shrink that down to be able to broadcast out to people, which is you actually have to do that with DVDs and Blu-rays as well. We've never really gotten as close to cinema quality as possible for mass distribution. So it's always going to look better in a movie theater. That's why guys like us like to go and see those re-releases in theaters and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Hamilton, if you haven't seen it, there's no reason not to, honestly. I love Hamilton so much. I actually, for one of my final essays in my poli-sci class, wrote an essay on how historically accurate Hamilton is. So yeah, I absolutely love it. Definitely recommend watching that. It's a good 3 hours. You'll have fun.
Yeah, I'm like big musical guy. I have no issues with musicals.
Yeah, I'm sure
like,
we'll
The
definitely
Greatest Showman, I'll get up on the table and I'll start singing songs. So
Mary Poppins is my jam.
Yeah, I like The Greatest Showman. I like Hamilton too. Not super big on musicals, but I mean, it's when something's a classic and just being knowledgeable of film, I'll sit down.
I mean, yeah, it's Hamilton was a phenomenon when it came out. So
it was weird because I knew Lin-Manuel Miranda from
In the Heights.
No, from two bit parts he had in TV shows. He's a recurring character in House in like in season like 6 or 7 when House gets locked in a mental asylum. He's another one of the patients, and he always talks about how he wants to be a street rapper, and he has the exact same cadence that you see that he uses in Hamilton. And then also in an episode of How I Met Your Mother, where he's sitting with Jason Segel's character who has a baby on a bus. And the entire the kind of conceit of the episodes, they're trying to get the baby to stay asleep, so they have to tell like the recent events in rhyme form.
Oh wow!
So Jason Segel does this kind of like very nursery rhyme style thing, and then at one point he can't rhyme something, so Lin-Manuel like leans over and comes in and gives like a 3 or 4 lyric like ending to his piece. And then he kind of came out with this, and I think I think the House episode was probably 2007, 2008. I think the How I Met Your Mother was like 2012, so not long after that, he exploded.
Yeah.
But he's been in the game with the shtick for a while, grinding, it seems like.
Yeah.
Love Lin-Manuel Miranda. Well, next up in the news, we're going to do a little bit of trailer talk, so we'll... Trailer talk. We want to bring up some, whatever trailers come out of anything worth watching, or a cool trailer we saw for something we're excited for. This week, I saw the trailer and thought I'd share it of American Pickle, a new movie coming from Seth Rogen that's going to be coming straight to HBO Max. We just watched the trailer not too long ago, so what do you guys think of it? You guys excited for it?
It's fresh. I'm sold.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Seth
Rogen.
So, guys, go watch the trailer, and then come back and we'll talk about it, but... If you didn't and you're listening anyways, basically Seth Rogen is a Jewish pickle farmer in Eastern Europe about 100 years ago. He comes to America with his wife. He falls into a pickle vat and is pickled for 100 years.
And, he's preserved.
And then is brought back to life and then comes back.
It's a classic Captain America story.
Yeah.
He's just preserved. You wake up.
The Jewish
Samuel
Captain America
Jackson's
story.
there.
And then he goes and actually finds a descendant of his who's also played by Seth Rogen. Yeah. And then they go and do Seth Rogen-y things together.
I don't laugh out loud at many trailers, but this one got me a few times. There were some good jokes in there. So
yeah, I think we were talking like if it was in the theaters, I'd go see it.
I would go see it.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's on HBO Max
it's
just as a streaming is
coming
even
August 6th to HBO Max, so not even too long of a wait, about a month.
And it's one of those really unique movies where the same actor plays two different people,
and he's a great actor too.
Yeah, he's going to do it really well.
Yeah, and I'm really interested. We've kind of talked about this in the past. I'm really interested in now that these streaming services are doing these kind of bigger movies and going out and getting big name talent like Seth Rogen, like your Spielbergs for Apple Plus, or even like Spike Lee just released The Five Bloods. But they're often these kind of smaller films. That you wonder if these are the ones that these directors and actors and stuff want to do. Kind of have these personal things and they just can't sell them to someone.
Right.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of nice that they have this outlet
to fund that
for something that might not be
100%.
This is kind of another sausage party almost from Seth Rogen.
Yeah, definitely.
Because that was a little bit smaller scale of a movie that did get the wide release. And I feel like if streaming was bigger back then when that released in 2016.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
So this kind of reminds me of that. Not movie wise, but like scale wise.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for it. Maybe we'll do an episode on it. We'll see what's coming out around then. All right, that'll be it for news. We're gonna move on to what everybody's watching. Kind of talk about what we've seen recently and maybe what we'd recommend. Blake, want to start it off?
Yeah. So what have I watched recently? I mean, I've watched two movies this week. I watched Terrifier. That was on Netflix. It's a horror movie.
Okay.
Have you seen that one, Nathaniel?
No, I haven't seen it yet, but it's always one that kind of comes up in people's lists for like underrated or things you haven't quite seen yet, and like kind of can't. Because is it a foreign film or is it just a smaller?
It's not. It's just really small budget.
Okay.
And you can tell there's probably 5 characters.
I know there's a clown. What's kind of the basic plot kind of thing?
The base is it's a killer clown. But the villain the villain is mute though, so he makes no noise.
Okay.
So it's mime. It's really interesting. Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much. So it's really interesting. Really gory though, but there's some good like torture porn in there a little bit. It's good.
There's a phrase.
But
if that's your vibe, guys.
If you're into horror movies, I think you could enjoy it. I would say.
And gorier horror movies.
Yeah, it's only like an hour and 20 minutes, really quick run through.
I think that's a good time for.
I think that's a good time for any horror.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
What's the other one?
Outside of that, I watched Urban Legend. I'm sure you've seen it.
Oh, the old. That's like 98.
Yeah, and that's the first time I saw it was actually the other day.
Yeah, I used to catch that. It used to play all the time at like 8 a.m. on like one of the 3 channels on the TV we would get in college.
Yeah,
like
doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it was just it seemed to always be there. I'd get home from like practice or something, and I just turn on the TV and be like, oh. It's the bit with Bloody Mary again. Yeah. Because I think it's like Sarah Michelle Gellar or something like that. There's
I don't
someone
think she's
in
that
there.
one, but yeah, it's a super 90s cast. It's got a young
Jared Leto, Alicia Witt.
Yeah,
that might be who
Rebecca
I'm
Greyhart.
Yeah.
But to your point though, it's definitely a movie that it could have a Sarah Michelle Gellar or something.
Yeah,
like that.
it's very 90s.
It's your 90s slasher like textbook. It's good though. I like it. It's kind of
any good torture porn.
no.
You know,
It's not like that.
It's
It's a little bit more in depth. I mean, it's a kind of similar to like Scream.
It's cheesy,
I know
though,
what
right?
you did last summer's. Yeah,
I think most horror movies from like the 90s kind of are.
Yeah, they aged terribly, but
Yeah.
I like them.
In a
They
good
were
way.
awesome.
They age terribly in a good way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
Well, Nathaniel and Izzo, I mean, what you're watching is going to go hand in hand for the most
Yeah,
part.
mine and Tyler.
I was gonna say,
pretty
yeah,
close.
real quick, another little peek behind the curtain. Nathaniel and I live together.
I think we already mentioned that.
Yeah, we do.
Right, but yeah, so pretty much everything that he's
As
watching,
a
I'm already
reminder,
watch.
Yeah.
as a reminder, we watch most of our stuff together because we actually like each other and watch stuff in the living
We
room
do,
all
yeah.
the time.
Yeah, it's a shared space, very
You guys
well.
watch a lot of torture porn together?
We haven't gone to Saw yet, but
It'll come up eventually.
Yeah, I got the 8 combo pack in the room. I think you were 3 when that movie came out. So
I could look it up. Probably, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that's 03.
The first one?
Yeah,
I'll look it up.
I bet I could beat you.
Saw.
Yeah.
I think it's
04.
04. I bet you it was released in a movie festival in 03 though.
You got me.
I'll die on that hill.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what have we been watching?
We just finished Avatar.
Yeah, we just finished The Last Airbender.
And
we
we've
watched
already
it.
started
not
Korra.
seen, which I kind of want to watch soon.
Yeah, you need to. If anyone hasn't watched hasn't watched Last Airbender. Oh my god. Someone help me out
I
here.
watched Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Thank you. You should.
You definitely should.
Wow, I just had a stroke. Fun pod.
Yeah, it's an awesome show. Something that I watched when I was younger. It's always a good watch if you haven't seen it. It's definitely
It's kind of a
good
gateway
rewatch.
to anime.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, because a lot of people might not think that's anime because it's more or less American made. But yeah, I would say it's kind of considered anime. And it's a really cool intro to see what you get into.
I definitely want to check that out because I just got back into anime weeks ago.
Which kind of folds into the other thing that we've been watching a lot of recently, which is Neon Genesis Evangelion, which is a personal favorite of mine.
Yeah, that's something that you
I'm
have to grow up with, and it's
I want
really,
to go
really
back
great.
and
It's
check
fantastic.
that out as well, even though the animation might be a little older since it's from the 90s.
Have you
but
seen it?
I've not, no.
The animation is beautiful. It's very, very filmic because the budget on it was so low, so there's a lot of really long-held shots.
Okay.
The sound editing on it is really lush and really dense.
Okay.
It's very, very interesting, and I think it holds up incredibly well.
It's like a timeless piece in my book. There are still things that you could definitely see that
it's
pioneered the way for anime now.
Yeah.
Which we literally had this conversation the other night.
Yep.
And the audio is just fantastic. Like you can hear cicadas in the background, almost like you were in the scene, and it's very cinematic. I would watch it in a movie theater; it would be awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, it ends with a movie, and then it's actually been remade by the original creator as 3 movies, and then there's different plots to it as well. It's a very interesting kind of artistic piece, and it's still massive in Japan. I mean, it's one of the only things. It's got its own theme park over there. So I have shirts in my closet from Japan with that are made by like FILA and like huge clothing companies and stuff. But so that's mainly what we've been watching.
Gotcha. I've like I said, I just got back into anime, so I've been watching chugging through Sword Art Online as a kind of a rewatch because I watched anime for a while and then kind of fell out of it a little bit. Kind of want to come back in. So.
Fresh bubbly
What
guys.
was,
That's another shot there, guys. That's a little random sound.
Yeah, anytime one of us cracks a bubbly or an a sparkling
Is
water.
it ah or is it just?
I think it's aha.
But yeah, so I've been watching that. And I also watched the other night Ford versus Ferrari.
Yeah, that was a good movie.
That's on HBO Max.
I'm a big car guy, so anytime
I'm
there's,
not a
like,
big car guy, but
car
it made me want to
movie,
be a car guy.
I'm in. And then when you get to a historic auto, and it goes into 2 huge names like that, it was.
I
mean,
watched
it was
that
pretty
movie.
well done.
I watched that movie. I came home and I turned on Rush. I did an auto
I
racing double
love
feature.
Rush.
Yeah,
if you
it's-
haven't seen Rush, please watch it.
I've not watched
Rush
it.
is a great one.
Absolutely fantastic.
It's a movie. It's a Ron Howard movie with Chris Hemsworth who does it turns in literally an Oscar level performance. But it's about the this rivalry between two Formula One drivers in the late 70s, early 80s.
And how they didn't even start off as like F1. They were like they show like
it
their
starts
whole
them in
past
like
as
the
like
F1 minor
F3,
leagues.
F2,
Yeah.
It's like it's
F1.
on
It's
Amazon.
really,
to watch.
really good.
Yeah, it's on Amazon.
Or HBO Max.
Yeah.
I guess has it
Okay.
as well.
Yeah. So if you really like Ford versus Ferrari, check out Rush.
Yeah, I mean, Ford vs. Ferrari, it was
feels
pretty
great.
solid. I mean, it was basically exactly what I expected. I don't know if it really should have gotten a Best Picture nom. I mean, it was solid, but I don't know if it was outstanding in my opinion. The one thing that I think pushes that movie over the edge for me is Christian Bale's acting.
Yeah,
he's incredible in that.
Anytime he's on screen,
Yeah,
he's magnetic.
and Matt Damon's solid too. I mean, you always get the same thing on Matt Damon, which is pretty consistent acting and pretty solid job. I love Matt Damon, so it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I would recommend it for sure. And if it's on HBO Max and you got the time to watch it, I would definitely recommend checking that out. Alrighty, so I think we're gonna move on to our main segment, which is gonna be the King of Staten Island review. So before we get into this, Nizza, why don't you just give us an overview of how our movie reviews are going to go, the structure we're going to take on these?
Yeah, so just kind of talking about the movies here. We'll kind of just talk about we'll start with a plot summary. We'll talk about the movie a little
no
bit.
Spoiler.
No spoilers at this point, or where if it's a movie with a big spoiler in it, like where you can kind of get up to before the spoiler is. We'll talk maybe kind of like about who's directed it and who the actors are in it. And that stuff.
And I will say that we do expect. Don't come into this show and watch the movies we're going to review. Basically, we're going to let people know ahead of time what we're reviewing.
If there is something that could be spoiled,
we're gonna.
There's a chance we might spoil it in the summary part because we're 4 idiots. So
speak for yourself. 4 idiots, and it's.
If you want to go into a movie completely blind, maybe wait a little bit or watch the movie. But yeah. We'll start with kind of just a general plot summary. Kind of go into like our first reactions, recommendations. Like kind of just think, hey, we'll make it a solid choice. Would you recommend this? Would you not? And then from that point, we'll go right into the spoilers part of the review.
Yes, and we'll give the heads up there on when we're getting.
Yeah, we'll give you a heads up.
If you have not watched the movie for whatever reason, we'll let you know when to stop.
Exactly, and kind of go on from there, and then kind of get deeper into the thoughts of what we might have on it. And then we're going to rank some stuff. So we'll just, all the movies that we review, we're going to throw it up on our big list.
Yep, the entropy list, which we'll kind of get into later and explain a little bit more in depth. But that's going to be our ranking system is our entropy list.
So yeah. Do you want me to do kind of a little summary?
Why don't we get right into the non-spoiler little plot summary here?
Yeah, so I mean, basically, it's, if you guys haven't heard, it's The King of Staten Island. It's directed by Judd Apatow, kind of his first movie in a little while. It stars Pete Davidson as kind of the main role, along with Bill Burr.
Yes.
Surprise Bill Burr.
Surprise! Yeah, he was in there.
Are you guys big stand-up guys? I love stand-up.
I'll watch it.
Stand-up. So Bill Burr is one of my favorite comedians, and I listen to his podcast and everything like that. So, and I've seen him, and he's had a few other acting roles. He has his animated show, F is for Family, on Netflix. So,
yeah.
I mean, he's done stuff outside of. He was in Mandalorian. Yeah, he had a breakout role there that probably landed him this game. No, no, he's a solid actor. He can definitely have. I think he has chops outside of comedy. And I think he's proven that at this point.
Yeah. So Pete Davidson, Bill Burr, Marissa Tomei is also in this as well. If that entices anyone to give it a watch. But the plot basically kind of talks about Pete Davidson's character Scott, who is kind of in typical Judd Apatow fashion, kind of figuring out his way through life. He's young. He doesn't quite have his shit together, as he keeps saying. And the main kind of reason for that is that his dad died when he was very young.
Yes, and this is I don't know how loosely, but this is based on Pete Davidson's life.
Yeah,
who also helped write it.
Yes, who also helped write it. His dad in real life died in 9/11. Who was a firefighter.
His dad in the movie was a firefighter who died in a house or a hotel fire.
Yeah.
And
a
he's
famously
kind of
hotel fire.
Yeah, this kind of legend. And Pete Davidson's dad in real life did die on 9/11 in response to the terrorist attacks. But so he's just kind of trying to figure it all out. He's got a girl, sort of. He's got a lot of shithead buddies that he smokes weed with all the time. And then his big plan is that he's going to be a tattoo artist. And one day he's chilling and kid comes up and decides that he wants a tattoo from him, and demonstrating his kind of thought processes, he decides to tattoo the kid, and that kid is Bill Burr's son.
Yes.
And that's kind of what sparks the kind of start of the movie from that, is that Bill Burr is very upset about that, comes and talks to Pete Davidson's mom, who is Marissa Tomei, and then that kind of is the impetus to the start of the story. They start seeing each other. So.
And then their paths cross.
Yep. All right. So why don't we go around, do our little binary? Would you recommend it? Would you not recommend it, Blake?
I would.
You would?
Yeah. What's your
quick answer? I would say yeah. I'd recommend it. I do like it. It's a good coming of age story. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to go against stuff like that. You're always rooting for you're always rooting for him to kind of make the right decision. He seems like he makes so many bonehead decisions, like time after time, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you find that annoying at all, or like over the top?
To an extent, you know. Eventually, you're kind of like, okay, I don't think he'll do it again.
Because this is a long movie.
You know, yeah.
This it's about 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes.
It does run long.
2 hours 16.
Yeah, so it is a long movie. Not that there isn't a lot of great stuff in there or anything like that, but
and
I was just curious what your thoughts were on kind of length.
I would say it did kind of run on. I mean, they touched on it a little bit. Spoiler warning, right? When they see the tattoos on his back. Mm-hmm. Right when he's at the hotel, and that was kind of like that was kind of shitty to see. And then you saw the really good tattoo, and I was like, okay, I can live with that. But that's not something I didn't really like that aspect of it. It was kind of like, I hope he grew past stuff like that.
Sure.
What you think?
So overall, you recommend it though?
Yes, though. Yes.
Okay.
Don't get it confused. I do like the movie, and I would recommend it.
So I'm gonna say that I would definitely recommend it as well. Mm-hmm. I have some druthers with it, which I think I'll bring up after kind of the spoiler mark that we go forward.
Yeah, we can get into it more.
I think overall, it's a good story. It's Judd Apatow. You kind of know what you're getting from him at this point. He's more or less a known commodity.
Right.
It was surprising to see Pete Davidson. He's very good in this. Mm-hmm. I really only knew him from Saturday Night Live, where he's kind of very kooky.
Yeah.
And then. But yeah, overall, definitely a recommend from me. I'm glad it's on streaming. I think it's a good spot for it.
Yes,
I don't know if I would have seen this in theaters. I probably would have waited for it to come to streaming, but I think it is worth.
And I think eventually it will come to some streaming platform, maybe Netflix or something.
Right. Well, I think it'll probably stay on Amazon Prime, to be honest with you, because what we haven't kind of addressed is it was supposed to be released in theaters and is now available to watch, but it is only available to be rented at the moment.
Right. So you got to pay the $19.99.
Yeah.
To rent it.
Right.
Correct. So yeah, overall recommend, but we'll have some thoughts later on.
Sure. Yeah. Tyler?
Yeah, I would definitely watch.
Yeah.
It's really, really kind of close to home for me, which I'll probably get into a little bit later.
Sure.
But yeah, I thought it was cool. I think you touched on it. Getting a little bit annoying that he kept doing the same dumb shit over and over again.
Yeah.
And yeah, by the end he's still kind of, not all the way. Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's a little bit annoying, but yeah, I would say overall it's a good movie. I liked the score. There was some really good songs in there. At the right times.
The violin, Scar Tissue.
Yeah, I liked that as well.
Orchestral. I don't know what instruments it was, but yeah, that I really liked. There were definitely some good music choices and stuff.
Yeah, and then Bill Burr did a phenomenal job. It's one of those movies where
I
people
didn't
think of him as a stand-up person,
right.
and he does a really good job doing a serious act, and he did a good job. So.
Yeah, I would recommend it too. I think it's really good overall.
I think just before we go kind of spoilers, because we can talk about it here, but I was curious, do you think Bill Burr grew that giant mustache because people see him and go, oh, that's Bill Burr, that's the comedian, rather than kind of him inhabiting that
So I listened to his
character?
interview on Joe Rogan.
Okay, yeah.
Does he talk about it a little bit. He didn't talk about why he grew the mustache or what purpose, but he was trying to go for the fireman's mustache.
Sure.
Or
But kind of what we've talked about kind of before too is that for example, we've talked about in the past is Chadwick Boseman.
Sure.
When you see him in a film, do you go,
I see what you mean.
Do you, Black Panther, or do you go, oh, Jackie Robinson, or do you go, oh, Chadwick Boseman? Where like with Bill Burr, he's like such a big entity outside of film.
Right.
I was like, oh, surprise, Bill Burr! Like, wonder what he's gonna be in here. And then like it took me just a little bit to get into his character after that. I think. because obviously it's not him playing himself. But.
Sure.
Right.
No, I could definitely see that. I mean, I obviously can't speak for it, but I could see that being one of the reasons that he does that. And I think the fact that he does it kind of, you're right, takes you out of it for a second, where you don't really think of him as Bill Burr right away, and I think that does help him a little bit get respect from the audience.
Yeah, and I think it was just because it was kind of like, oh, he's in this. Like, I didn't know he was in it going into it, which you might have known.
I did personally.
So you would have been a little bit easier.
I didn't know he was like one of the main characters.
Yeah,
I knew he was in it.
Yeah. So I think that probably brings it up to spoilers at this point. So overall, we'd recommend it, guys.
Yeah, I think all four of us recommend it.
So we'll go spoilers from here.
Yeah.
If you're listening past this, it's your fault. But
So Nizza, why don't you give us the rest of those?
Yeah. So the taking up from left off, Bill Burr and Marissa Tomei then start kind of dating, and Bill Burr forgives Pete Davidson's character for tattooing his son.
Harold.
His son Harold. And Bill Burr is divorced, obviously. Marissa Tomei is widowed, and kind of Scott, Pete Davidson's character, has to come to terms with the fact that his mom is moving on, everyone is moving on. His sister, who's a big role in the film.
Who I thought was really good.
Yeah,
I did.
gone to college. That's,
I don't remember the actress.
What is
that's Maud Apatow. That's Judd Apatow's daughter.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I'd seen her in other things.
Yeah, she's in like 40-Year-Old Virgin as like a child.
Is she really?
That's what I thought when I was watching it. The face looks
She's
so
like,
familiar.
Yeah, she's a literal child. But she's really good in it too. I hope she continues to act and do more things. She's really good. So he's kind of just stuck and needs to kind of get going, and has really hard time with the kind of trauma of losing his father, and that has him kind of spinning his wheels, not really knowing how to deal with his mom's kind of moving on without him. So it all culminates in Scott going to Bill Burr's ex-wife, who is played by Pamela Adlon, who's great. If you've ever seen Californication, she's awesome in it. But and trying to find out the worst things about Bill Burr that Pete can, and then revealing it to his mom, trying to split them up. And in doing so, Bill Burr and Pete come into an altercation, and Marissa Tomei in effect kicks them out. And then they kind of find their way back to the firehouse, which is where Bill Burr is employed, which is kind of a big plot point that I don't know if we brought up to this point.
Bill Burr is also a fireman.
Yeah, Bill Burr is also
dad, which is why it's a little harder for him because his mom obviously has a little bit of a type.
Yeah, right.
And he also finds it a little disrespectful to date another fireman.
Yeah, so Scott starts to kind of, through the strength of family at the firehouse and figuring it out, and starts growing up a little bit. And the film kind of ends on him starting to take these next steps, which I thought was nice. We didn't see him get his fireman's badge or something like that.
Yeah, which is kind of where I thought it was heading, and I'm kind of glad it didn't.
Yeah, I think it ended at a right point. Because this film, it had a lot to say. I was summarizing that and just kind of like, wow, there's a lot that happens in this film, and so that's kind of the full thing on that. So you want to go a little bit more into kind of
we can start going around giving our thoughts. I can start. I really like this movie overall. I feel like if some things were changed with the plot, or at least how the storyline and where things were arranged, I would have liked it a lot more. I disagree with some of the character choices. I feel like that scene where he goes back home and his mom basically just throws him out again, like after he's been at the firehouse. Yeah. That scene felt really out of place. I don't.
Sure. Was she like redecorated?
Yeah, she redecorated, and she was kind of a dick to him, and that felt really out of place for me and really out of character. She was.
She was always loving.
She was always, and I understand if she didn't want to take him back, but to just lock him out of the house laugh at him, that felt really out of place.
I almost wondered if. And this is kind of my biggest gripe with the movie, is that it leaves a lot of plot points abandoned. Yeah. There's like his friends who at one point get kind of incarcerated. And they're just never brought up again. Yeah. There's his sister is there at one point, but you kind of think it's going to go in another way and come back. And then like she even makes like a reference to him like hitting on her best friend earlier, and then that point's just never readdressed at any point, even though he interacts with the best friend often. So I almost wonder if they were over time on this already. already, and then there was kind of scenes that they had to cut surrounding.
There really must have been. There were just, it felt like there was like a lot missing. The tattoo thing, it's talked about a lot in the first third of the movie, and then it's left out until the end where he's told at that tattoo parlor he needs more practice for that apprenticeship. Yeah. And then it kind of just shows up. We don't really talk about it. We don't see him practice at all. And it just shows up later that he's got this amazing art talent all of a sudden.
I found that
felt a little weird.
I found that kind of that thread a little bit funny because it's set up by a joke.
Yes.
Because
early
they kept
on, bringing up that joke
early in the film, Pete Davidson apparently has the ability, and it doesn't matter what medium it is, he can either be really, really good at art or really, really bad at art. Yeah. And that's the joke, is that he's mad inconsistent. Mm-hmm. But then they kind of almost set it up as like, okay, you're mad inconsistent at tattooing, or then you're mad inconsistent, and because like his sister brings him art pencils at one point, and then you see some of his art later in the film that he does for Harold, Bill Burr's son, and it's incredible. And then the kind of big conciliatory moment between the two characters is that Bill Burr allows Pete to tattoo his back.
Right.
And Pete draws a family photo of Bill Burr, Marissa Tomei, him and his sister with his father in the clouds kind of thing.
The catch on the tattoo is Bill Burr doesn't know what's being tattooed on him.
Correct. Yeah, he doesn't know what it's going to be. But then after seeing his artwork that he had done for the child, I thought it was going to be incredible.
I thought it was going to be so good.
I thought it was
but then it wasn't. And then I just realized that was just the joke. Was that his and kind of the main plot was that his art was very inconsistent. Which was funny, but it's just very kind of strange.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's and his girlfriend. I don't even know what you want to call her, because she ends up being his girlfriend at the end.
Yeah,
but she kind of disappears too when he goes to the firehouse.
Right, and he says and it's established early on that they're like, oh, we're like brother and sister, and that's why it's weird that they're sleeping together. Mm-hmm. But she.
I mean, I like that. I liked her character a lot, and I liked she was a great actress, whoever she was. I don't know her name.
It's I believe Belle Powell.
There we go. Yeah, she was pretty good, and I liked their storyline and their chemistry and everything like that. But then she just kind of disappeared for a good chunk of the movie, and then showed up at the end.
Do you feel this might have worked better as like a limited series?
Maybe. I mean, if
like
they had
5 or 6 episodes.
If it truly was the case that they ran out of time, maybe. But at the same time, I don't know if I would be invested enough to watch this over more than one.
Well,
episode.
yeah, okay. I think you're right. There's not enough plot to spread over it, but I found myself really liking a lot of the additional characters.
I did too.
And would have liked to see their story.
If they did like a 5 episode where it's like one episode it's him with his friends, one episode it's a relationship with his girlfriend. If they did that would be cool.
Yeah, right, because like they already made it 2 hours and 16 minutes, right? That's a long movie.
That's a pilot,
and it obviously seems like you said earlier, they had more footage than what they probably ended up having.
Well, I wonder. Yeah.
Right.
Regardless, I'd like to live in that world a little bit more, which I think is it. And I would have liked to see some of the other stuff they have. So, I mean, kudos to them for that. I think that's one thing that Apatow does very well.
Yeah.
Is that he kind of does create a nice big world for you, you know. But yeah, sorry, just, someone want to kind of go into that.
Yeah, I mean, there's some characters which are a little bit more fleshed out. I mean, even his girlfriend, Kelsey, her friend. She has kind of a small part, but she's always with the group.
Right.
Like, there's no context to it.
She asks about the tattoo in the beginning.
Yeah. And that's really it. And then she has a few one-liners with the friends and.
Can we bring up really quick Rico from Hannah Montana's in this movie?
Is he Igor?
He's yes, that's his name, Igor.
Yeah,
he's the one that they keep joking about how he doesn't like his tattoos. He's just really nice.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you guys watch Hannah Montana. That might be more my generation. On his belly. But he's in Hannah Montana, and he kind of disappeared for a while. But he's been in a few things recently.
His most recent thing that most people would probably know him from is Ender's Game. He was like,
he was in 5 Feet Apart as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing
familiar. I was like, what is this?
One thing I wanted to bring up with you, Tyler, is that did you feel that the firehouse was realistic? Because I have a hunch that there was real firefighters in there that were like in the background roles, and I know Steve Buscemi, who plays the captain or head of house, was a firefighter before he was an actor.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's pretty cool.
For context, guys,
Tyler, this is like earlier I said this kind of hits close to home. I was a fireman. I did all that. I don't do it anymore. But yeah, I think it actually was really cool to kind of see how like realistic those things are. Like people watch like Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, and they wonder like how realistic those are and everything like that. And yeah, I think they do a good job of like getting like the brotherhood aspect. You'll never know unless you're a fireman, but there are so many more politics that are involved in firefighting than you will probably ever imagine.
Steve Buscemi kind of just hires Pete Davidson on the spot. I'm like, I feel like there'd be a lot more.
I mean, he doesn't. He's not
happens.
hired as a firefighter trainee or anything.
Yeah.
He's basically hired
a janitor.
And for him to be a place to have a place to sleep.
Yes.
Right. It's basically like what your cadets do. They clean the bathrooms, they make the beds, they do the laundry, stuff like that. But yeah, it definitely seems like an older firehouse, so they probably wouldn't have somebody like that. So yeah, it was a good spot for him to just kind of jump in there.
There was a couple shots in this that I kind of picked up being a film idiot, and like that I just felt were there to be like, okay, we've made this agreement with the firehouse that we can film here and stuff. Let's show them doing really cool things.
In the background?
In the background.
Yeah.
Like at one point, Pete goes with them to a fire.
Yep.
And there's a couple shots of them like getting the
hose
hose set up and how they're going to enter and that kind of thing. And you see this kind of a lot of times in big blockbusters whenever the army's involved, that there'll be like a scene where they kind of like show the army,
the actual process,
the chain of command or something like that. And I think it's kind of a way that they get extra funding or they get their permission to shoot in these places or with this kind of stuff. And I felt like I enjoyed that. I'm glad I got to see it, but that it's like that might have been the thing that could have been cut a little bit or something like that, where it doesn't necessarily inform the art side of the film or the creative side of the film. It's more of the something that kind of stuck out to me a little bit. But yeah, I'm sorry. Continue on.
No, I mean that was pretty much the end of it. I mean, I think they did a really good job of kind of showing you that aspect.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things to do in a firehouse. There were a lot of things being done. I think a really cool shot was actually when Steve Buscemi stands up for Scott.
Oh, sure.
When he's washing the truck. And then, obviously, he makes that comedic relief, and he's like, why do you guys even watch this truck? Doesn't it get fire on it? It's really funny because
this movie, I mean, at its core, is supposed to be a comedy for the most part.
It is,
and
fun.
It holds some serious topics. Like, I mean, the opening shot is Pete Davidson closing his eyes driving on the highway. I mean, that kind of sets the tone for the movie that it's going to be focused on other things.
I thought what was really kind of a good example of that was the scene when Scott has been at the firehouse for a little while, and part of what Scott's kind of main issue is he keeps saying that firemen shouldn't have families, and that because it makes it unfair for the kids that you may not come home at some point. And he's in the bathroom or something, and there's another character that comes up to him and he says, "Hey, I appreciate your sacrifice." And Scott's kind of taken aback by it, and he says, "I don't really know what you're talking about." He said, "I didn't suffer or whatever. You know, my dad is the one that died in the fires." And the guy says, "Oh, you didn't?" And then kind of walks out of frame, kind of setting up that they're recognizing that he has gone through this thing, and that he had to give up his dad, and that is a sacrifice that he's made. But it's delivered by the most muscular black man.
They were like, who's the biggest guy we can find?
So big.
That might be that guy's only line.
Yeah, like he's
it
just
was.
the largest, most athletic man with the biggest mustache in the world.
Oh my God.
And I feel like that was like this really nice mix of how the film presents itself, where it's this very kind of serious, heartfelt topic, but it also has this kind of ridiculous elements to it.
His real name is Hank Strong. So
I would imagine he has some sort of bodybuilding experience.
Anybody else got any thoughts on it? I mean, Tyler, do you want to go into more of your thoughts on the movie, not just the firefighting aspect?
Yeah, honestly, I thought the film was really cool. I like how they blatantly say, like, you're on antidepressants. I think that's a big statement. Kind of like how you said when he was, like, the opening scene is him driving on a major highway with his eyes closed. I think that really sets the tone for, like, the artsy aspect, not the comedy aspect of the movie, on how they kind of want to set the tone that this is still kind of a serious thing, and Scott is severely depressed. And is obviously having some issues with that. So,
yeah, I really liked what they did. It felt like they had something to say which is good.
Yeah.
One of my criticisms that I kind of have with the film is that it is Judd Apatow. It feels kind of like he has done this before in terms of the story.
Yeah.
His films often revolve around kind of a slacker schlub, 20-something who's gone wrong and has this case of Arrested Development and can't get going. And it's kind of like we've seen this with Seth Rogen, we've seen this with Jason Segel, we've seen this with Steve Carell, now we're seeing it with Pete Davidson. And the film, for me, says enough and does enough and breaks itself apart enough that I still enjoyed it and it kept me interested, but it felt a little retready at points for me, but still obviously kind of a big recommend and everything. So
yeah, I definitely recommend it. It was a solid movie overall. I think it definitely has its issues like we were talking about, but I mean I enjoyed it. I thought, like I said, it was pretty funny for the most part too. The acting is pretty good Pete Davidson's good in it, and I mean Mr. Tomei of course, and Bill Burr, all of them.
What you from the comedy aspect? What did you guys think was the funniest scene?
I saw it a few weeks ago, so it's kind of hard for me to remember.
Okay.
I liked that opening scene in the basement where they're all kind of messing around. That was a good scene. Or maybe when they're on the beach, that was really funny when they first meet Harold.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
so the kind of moments when he's with his dead shit friends.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. I don't know.
And they're all showing the garbage tattoos that Scott has obviously given them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bill Burr has some good lines as well.
Yeah, I thought Pete was very kind of engaging and stuff. I'll be interested to see if he does more acting outside this, because I wonder how close to home this is to kind of hit. If he's playing a character that's very similar to kind of just what he does.
Yeah.
Or if it was a character that he's kind of inhabited and now he'll go and do a different character.
I mean, we'll see. I think he's definitely got the chops to go outside of comedy. Just like
there's a darkness to him.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's
which is like we said earlier, he helped write it, and like again in the basement scene, there is a huge part of we're like we're just joking, but then
that was
Igor.
Which the only bit that I had seen in a trailer was kind of the start of the movie.
And then Igor leans over and he hugs Scott because he obviously is like one of the only people that you will slowly realize actually listens to everybody.
Yeah.
And has some kind of clarity throughout all this smoking of the weed. But yeah, it's really cool to again see how they tie that in so many times throughout the film, that there's a big depressed thing here and there's also a very funny bit here. So.
Yeah, I mean, do we have any closing thoughts on it, or are we good to put it on our entry list?
It's going number one.
It's going at number one.
Yeah, so why don't you explain the concept
of the
entry list?
So the entry list, instead of doing ranks or grades or whatever, I kind of just wanted to create one mass list where you kind of just get the quality of what this movie is compared to all the other movies on the list. So it's going to, and I call it the entry list because it's going to be regardless of genre, regardless of whatever it is.
So this is something we're building over time.
This is something we're building over time. Yeah. So right now, King of Staten Island is going to be the first one on the list, so it's going to go at number one. But then whatever movie we review next week, we're going to say, hey, is it better or worse? Did we like it more or less than King of Staten Island? We're going to try to make majority, and then we're going to rank it above or below. And we're kind of just going to keep adding to the list in that sense. So you kind of just have an idea overall of where a movie is quality-wise in our collective opinion.
And Adam will be keeper of the list?
I will be keeper of the list. I'm actually going to put it on my Letterboxd because you can make lists on Letterboxd.
Perfect.
So if anybody ever wants to reference the entry list, it will be available on my Letterboxd if anybody ever wants to go and see that. So I will be making that right now on Letterboxd and adding this to number one, and then we'll just keep adding to it as we go.
Cool.
Yeah. What movie would you guys like to do next week? We haven't talked about this at all, actually. We probably should have.
That's a good question.
Little sizzle, guys.
Yeah.
Little peek behind the curtain.
Yes.
The cutting room floor. This is how the sausage is made.
I don't know if there's any new releases coming out anytime soon to streaming or anything like that.
Not anything that we've already seen, obviously.
Maybe we could do a...
We can always do a backlog.
Yeah. Which I'm always down for.
Yeah, there's nothing... I think tonight got pushed back again because movie theaters are not opening if you're listening in the future. We're still in the middle of this COVID pandemic. And they keep pushing them back. Yeah. So...
I'm trying to look at if there's an upcoming movie releases, but, I mean, Tenet is... Whenever that
Tenet
comes
we're
out,
definitely going to do.
We're definitely going to do. That's August 12th as of now, if that doesn't get pushed back any further, which it very well might.
Don't hold your breath.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we might be able to find something Netflix is always putting out. Maybe we'll find one on the new to streaming that we all haven't seen before, and we'll go off that or something like that.
I don't know. I kind of want to figure something out now, though, so people who are listening can watch something Do you guys have any
if you
idea?
want to go with us?
Yeah, because I want to give everybody a heads up so that they can come and
That's cool.
and watch
Yeah,
it.
if they want to watch it.
Do you guys have
within the week that
anything
we
on your
release
watch
one.
list that either came out maybe recently or the last few years or something like that you guys are looking to watch? On a streaming service preferably, but we can always rent something or find something.
I feel like I'm a bad movie kid. I don't really keep a watch list
Oh,
very often.
Okay.
What's on
Nathaniel and
yours,
I-
Ayysh?
Sure. Well, why
Just
don't
go
I
for it.
remember you talked about going around and each of us choosing a movie for all of us to watch. Do
Okay.
we want to do that? Do we want to just start off by doing that?
Okay, yeah. I mean, if you want, I can pick a film, or someone can pick a movie for you guys to watch that maybe you guys haven't seen and that I have, or one of us has.
Yeah, we can do that. Who wants to start off that rotation then?
I think Blake should do it.
Blake?
All right,
Put him on the spot.
Blake,
All
just start off with. There's got to be a horror movie that we haven't seen. That
Are we
you
going
have.
horror right
yeah.
away? All right.
Yeah, get spooky.
Okay,
gang.
I mean, just for topics, we already talked about it. I mean, I don't think any of you guys have seen Terrifier.
Terrifier.
Oh, okay.
I have not.
I have not seen Terrifier.
I would say we can probably go with that, and then I can get into a little bit more in depth review. I know we spoke about it briefly,
Sure.
Sure. I'll be down for that.
but that's on. It might be on Netflix right now. It's on Tubi as well. Tubi's free.
Okay, yeah, Tubi's great.
So you can sit there and watch
Alright,
that.
so listeners, it's Terrifier next week. If
Terrifier
you
it
get
is.
terrified with Terrifier.
Yeah. I'm down for that. And then I think we should probably plan this out a little bit ahead of time so we'll have a better idea.
Without a doubt, that was
Yeah.
completely off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, that's
Alright,
no.
well, if we decide we need to change it, we can change it.
Right.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Hey listeners, Adam here. After the fact, editing the episode, we actually decided to change what we were going to watch for next week's episode. So we are no longer going to be watching Terrifier. Instead, we are going to be watching Arrival for episode number 3. So either give it a watch or give it a rewatch, and then hopefully you'll join us next week for Arrival. All right, well then closing out the show, we'll do some plugs. For the show plugs, on Twitter, we are currently at Banter Row. I never changed that, but might soon. It's at Banter Row. YouTube is just Back Row Banter. And then if you'd like to email us for any questions, comments, or feedback, we'd love it. It's going to be backrowbanterpod@gmail.com.
Do you want to clarify where the name came about?
Oh, Back Row Banter?
Yeah,
We
where did
can,
Back Row
yeah.
Banter
So we were
come
kind of
from?
throwing around name ideas. Couldn't really find one that stuck very well. And then Nathaniel came up with the idea we should do something with Banter, which is going to be our initials, Blake, Adam, Nathaniel, Tyler. And then I was not able to sleep one night, and at 4:37 a.m. I was like throwing names around in my head, and just Back Row Banter kind of came in because back row middle in the theater is kind of like where, as a kid, my dad and I always sat in the back row in the middle because there was pretty good seats. I feel like those are the seats most people go for, and then Back Row Banter kind of had a nice ring to it, so. Kind of, we all decided on that once I threw that.
BRB.
BRB gang.
Yeah. Blake, where can the people find you at?
Yeah,
Social media-wise.
Social media wise, you guys can definitely find me on Letterboxd. So that's going to be my name. So that's BlakeHolder. Last name's that's HOLDER.
Just
so
how
I'm
you think
there.
it'd be spelled.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'll be logging a few movies on there. As you can imagine, most will be horror movies, but action, anything, drama, comedy.
All right, cool. Nathaniel?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter or follow me on Letterboxd. They're both at NS Gingrich. That's G.
Is it Gingrich or Gingrich?
It's Gingrich. It's
So I've
spelled
been
G I
pronouncing
N.
it wrong.
Yeah, GINGRICH is how it's spelled, gang.
Well, I will fix that in the future.
No, don't worry about it. Yeah, no, it's spelled ICH. It's just
Yes.
pronounced Gingrich. Yeah.
I know for sure.
And then if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm at NathanielG92. I don't really post to either Twitter or Instagram very often.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll do more. Maybe I'll do more.
Yeah,
film
if you
takes
get that
and stuff.
follower count up, you know,
Yeah.
get the audience growing.
Yeah. This will be my rocket ship to start up.
There you go. You got to start something. Tyler?
I still don't have a Twitter.
Give us the
Because I'm a
times, man.
boomer.
Yeah.
I will try and get one of those. I'll have Ayysh sit down and
I'll show you where you can find them.
help me on my computer phone. Yeah, otherwise, I got an old school Instagram. It's just Tyler Vidales, Vidales. Tyler spelled normally.
And then you're streaming on Twitch?
I am streaming on Twitch.
Where can they find you there?
El Trabajo 87.
Alrighty.
Spell that for me, please.
Yeah.
Spell it for the people at home.
For the non-Spanish speakers, like myself.
You want me to spell it for you?
No, I just it's a little. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So capital EL. capital T-R-E.
The capitals doesn't matter on Twitch, I don't think.
BAJO87. All one word, not with the interruptions from my co-hosts there.
Alrighty then.
Did you say E?
Yeah, E-L.
Did I spell it wrong? E-L? Just fucking spell it then, Ty.
ELTRBAJA. Right?
I'm reading what's on
Okay,
here.
you know, I'm confused.
We'll
at
get
this
it next
point.
time.
Yeah, we'll get it next time. You know, don't even fucking follow him at this point.
I honestly really
deserve
don't
it.
stream very much.
Yeah, we don't deserve it
So.
at this point. You can find
His
me
Twitter will be easier, guys.
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter at @amschwartzy, and then Letterboxd is @Ayysh, and I'm also on Twitch @Ayysh. That's AYYSH. If you want to find me there. Alrighty, I think that's gonna be it for this episode. Episode 1 in the books, guys. Can you believe it?
I cannot.
Can't really.
No.
Well, believe it, Nathaniel.
All
It's
right,
over.
I will.
It's over
It's
and done.
believed.
All right,
Let's hear
thank
it
you everybody
live.
for listening. We'll catch you guys in episode 2, which is live right now. So go ahead and go check that out. BRB. Blake.
BRB.
America. Ready for another lesson.
Back row.
Banter.
I actually like that.